Hey guys, welcome to the channel, and today I'm going to be showing you how to make this petal reveal effect for your product. So let's get started. Alright, so I've just opened up a new scene here. First thing we need to do is set up our petals. So I'm going to Shift A, add a plane, scale up a little bit, maybe not. And we can get our petal assets from a number of places. We can get them online, we can get them from Polygon, which is where I got them from personally, and you can get them from Quixel Megascans, which is completely free. We're gonna first apply the image to the plane. So this is how you would normally be starting. You plug the color into the color, of course, and this is what you would be looking at before you add in anything else. So you need to actually plug the alpha into the alpha of the principal BSDF, and then you'll get your actual petals with transparency on them, and they'll look like they're actually petals instead of just a card with a petal painted onto it. So you can plug in all the rest of your stuff like normal, the normal into the normal map. Make sure I plug that into the color of the normal map, and then normal into normal. And then for the displacement, just put that into displacement and then into there, and you're all set. Okay, so now we have our petals. What we need to do is separate them and get them ready for the cloth simulation. So I'm going to go top view. We can go into material preview for this, just so that we'll run this a little bit faster. And I'm going to use the knife tool using K to cut in between all of these, just like this, and do it across the way as well. And I'm just pressing enter to confirm that. And now we have all of these pieces. So I'm going to click on them, press P, separate by selection, one at a time, just like this. So click, P, selection. So now we have them all in our outliner here as separate objects. I'm going to combine them back, and now they're separate within edit mode, which is good because we need to keep these all in the same object later for our cloth simulation so that we get some good collisions. Okay, so now we can select everything using A and subdivide each of them, say to about 20, that should be good enough. And then we can add a subdivision surface modifier at level 1 on top of that, just to get a little bit more detail. And we can turn this on or off later if we want, if we don't like the extra detail. So now we have our petal set up. We can start with the cloth simulation. To get started here, all we need to do is grab our petals that we made, and we need to place these all around our can and mess around with it a little bit. So this is the actual project file for the original render that I made. So you'll see everything set up right. These are all our petals. This is the starting position that I went for. I curved some of them a bit, placed them in a bunch of locations around the can to sort of hide it, and duplicated them in edit mode like this by pressing L and then duplicating them, sort of moving them around into different locations, but keeping them in the same container object like this. And that's really important because when you come to the cloth simulation, it's hard to get very good collisions if they're not in the same group. So I'm going to delete the bake that I already have, and I'm going to show you my settings for this simulation. So quality steps at 5. I could probably bump that up a little bit. I put the speed to 0.8 because it was a bit too fast in my opinion, but you could probably keep it at 1 until you decide what's best for you. These are the ones that you want to keep. These are the ones that are non-negotiable if you want to get the right look for flower petals. 5 on tension, compression, and shear. Bending 1, and the damping for tension, compression, and shear is 20, and bending is 1. These are probably the most important for getting a realistic look to your petals. Next, we come to object collisions. You need to change this from the default number down to quite low so that you don't see a gap in between your can and your petals when they collide with it. Make sure your can is set to collision so that the cloth does actually collide with it. And then down here you want to turn on self collisions. I turned the friction a little bit down and I turned the distance a little bit lower as well. I didn't put this down to the lowest number because once I put it down to the lowest number, you started to see some of them sort of intersect, and it doesn't look good at all when you shade it, and you can see a bit of you see it's messed up a bit. So I decided to give that a bit more buffer, make sure that they didn't overlap. It's also really important to turn the gravity down to 0 from 1, otherwise they'll just plummet straight to the ground and you won't get this flowy petals in the wind type of look. So that's all the settings. After I ran the simulation, I added a subdivision modifier to smooth it out a little bit, because you can see without this, your petals might look a little bit more jagged. Just wanted to make sure that everything was smoothed out. In the final render, I added a very, very small solidify modifier, which I'm not sure if you can even see, but it gives me a little bit of peace of mind that they technically have a little bit of thickness, so it might be a little bit more realistic. I don't really know. I added this wind force up here so that they push across the screen. If I go into the camera, it's just pushing the petals across the screen so that they move out the way. It's pretty simple. I put this at strength 500. I added a little bit of noise, and I added a max distance and a fall off power of 1, so that once they move a little bit outside the radius of the can, they'll slow down. And I added a turbulence field here, strength of 500, size 2, and I animated its position so that I could get a bit more random noise, so that it wouldn't just be a static noise field. I went to the graph editor, I added a noise modifier, scaled that up a ton, increased the strength a ton, so we ended up with 20 and 76 for some sort of sample values. And that's it. Once you set up all your stuff, your collisions, your simulation parameters, your force fields, then you should have a really nice simulation that you can reveal your product with. So thanks so much for watching. See you next time.